Good morning, children. Today I will tell you a story entitled Gideon and his 300. Slowly and carefully, Gideon raised his head up over the bushes. He looked all around. He did not see anyone. Perhaps it would be safe to come out now. Gideon was hiding from the people of Midian. If they saw him, they would take away the wheat grain he was hiding. Gideon needed the wheat to make bread. His people were very hungry. The Midianites were bad people. They came from their own country into the land where Gideon lived. There were many Midianites. They were stronger than the other people of Gideon. They took away all the cows and all the chickens. They took away all the wheat and all the corn. When the people planted more wheat, the Midianites took that away too. When Gideon saw that there were no Midianites watching him, he began to thrash his wheat into. If he worked quietly, perhaps no one would know he was there. While he worked threshing the wheat, Gideon wondered if God had forgotten his people. God had brought his people to this land, but now they had so many enemies. Perhaps it was because his people had forgotten God. Just then Gideon saw a man not far away. The man was sitting under the big tree. He had a stick in his hand. Was he a Midianite? Would he take away the weight of Gideon? Before Gideon would move, the man spoke. God is on our side, you brave men. An enemy would not talk like that. Gideon thought perhaps this man was a messenger from God. If God is with us, Gideon asked, why he has let the Midianites hurt us so? The Lord has chosen you to be the one to drive away the Midianites, the man answered. Me? Gideon was surprised. I am only a young man. I am not well known among my people. They would not follow me in an army. Do not worry, the strangers replied. God will help you. You must trust God and believe. Because Gideon was a polite and kind, he ran to get some food for the stranger to eat. Thank you, the stranger said. Put the food here, on this rock. Gideon put the food on the rock where the man sat. Then the man touched the food with the end of his stick, and a wonderful thing happened. Fire came up out of the rock and burned up the food. Then the stranger disappeared. Now Gideon knew that the man was really an angel. God really wanted him to lead his people to drive away the Midianites. But still Gideon wanted to be sure God would help him. He prayed for a sign that God would help him drive away the Midianites. God, Gideon prayed, tonight I will put out on the ground of the piece of the wool on the sheep tomorrow morning. If the wool is wet with dew, but the ground is dry, I will know you want me. The next morning, Gideon found the wool was wet while the ground was dry, but Gideon wanted to be very sure God would help him. Wool collects water, so it would be easy for the wool to be wet. God, Gideon prayed the next night. This time, let the wool be dry, but the ground very wet. The next morning, Gideon found the ground wet, but there was no dew on the wool. Now he knew God would help him drive out the Midianites. Gideon sent a secret message to all his people. They were to come to him. God would help them drive out the Midianites, Gideon told his people. Many men came. There were thousands of them, but still there were not so many men as there were Midianites. How shall we drive out the Midianites when there are many and we are few? Gideon thought. Gideon, God said, you have too many men. You must send most of them home. But Gideon thought he did not have enough men for an army. Remember Gideon, God said again. The reason so much trouble has come to your people is because they had forgotten me. These men are not enough to drive out the Midianites unless I help them. But if I help them, they will think they did it by themselves, and they will forget me again. If you have just a few men, when I help them drive out the Midianites, they will know it was I who helped them. So Gideon sent most of the men home. He had only few thousands men left. You still have too many, God said. Gideon, do you see that little stream ahead? When your men came out of the stream, they will want to get drink. Those men who stop to drink all they can, put them in one group. The men who do not stop but take up water to drink while they keep walking, put in another group. Gideon said as God said. Most of the men stopped to drink. Only 300 men took up water in their hand and drink while they walked. Send the men home who stopped to drink, God told Gideon. Keep only the men who drank as they walked. Gideon said, as God said, he kept only 300 of the best men. How could only 300 men drive out the many Midianites? But God said he would help. They must believe God. The men came up to Gideon. We are all ready to fight in your army. Please give us word. And Midianites took away all our swords and spears. I will not give you swords, Gideon answered. We will not fight this war the usual way. Instead, God will fight for us. Gideon gave each man a trumpet and a torch. How could they fight the Midianites with a trumpet and a torch? The men wondered, but they trusted God. When time came, Gideon told his men, now light your torches, but cover the fire with an empty pitcher. Hold your torch in one hand and your trumpet in the other. Gideon told his men to make a circle around the camp where the Midianites were sleeping. Watch me, he said, and do just what I do. Very quietly, Gideon and his 300 men surrounded the camp of Midianites. The Midian guard did not even know they were there. Suddenly, Gideon smashed the pitcher that was hiding his light. Then he blew on his trumpet the words of the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. He shouted. When his men saw Gideon do this, they all did the same. They smashed their pitcher and waved their torches and blew the trumpets. The sword of the Lord and of Gideon, they all shouted. The sudden noise woke up the Midianites. What did all the sounds of the trumpets mean? And look at all the lights and hear the shouting. We are surrounded, the Midianites thought. A big army has come. We must escape. But the Midianites could not see very well in the dark. Every time they saw someone, they thought it was an enemy, so they tried to hit him with sword. They were only hitting each other. The Midianites were killing each other in the dark. The more the Midianites fought each other, the more afraid they became. The ones who were not killed ran away. Gideon and his men chased the Midianites back to their own land, and never again did they come to bother Gideon and his people. Gideon and his people were happy that God kept his promise. They learned that God always takes care of those who trust and obey him. So that was the story of the Gideon and his 300.